Hi, I'm Jimmy with PJG's Jewelry. Today I want to show you how to make ring shanks so that you can make your own custom rings to size whatever you need to instead of having to try and order something just right. And obviously you can use different types of half round or double round wire, gold, it doesn't really matter. But if you start researching how to make ring shanks, there's some tables that you can research online, and today I'm going to show you how to make a ring shank that's sized exactly 7.5 American size. And if you read the fine print, since we're using half round wire that's about 1.3 millimeters thick, if you were to look on the chart, it would tell you that we need to have a total length approximately 59.5 millimeters. Well, I'm also going to show you how to use the Whaley ring sizer because it can make things really simple for you. If you'll go ahead and cut off from your stock a length of wire probably 4 or 5 millimeters extra, let's say 64, 65 millimeters, which is exactly what I have here, and using this ring sizer we can adjust up or down for the material thickness, and however thick that is, we'll just snug that set screw. And because you want to have a ring that's sized 7.5, we want to have square ends on each end of the wire. You can go ahead and use a miter vise to first square up one end, and then placing that end against the little slit that you'll see in the ring sizer itself. We can then use a Sharpie to mark off exactly where 7.5 size would be. So that's where we would need to make one more cut. And the beauty of this is that you can simply put that mark right against a raised edge, use your jeweler saw and go ahead and cut this, after which is cut. We'll again use the miter vise to make perfectly square ends. After we've gotten both ends of the wire squared up, we need to use some type of nylon jawed pliers. These are actually for bending ring shanks. Anything that's got nylon jaws on it so that you won't permanently mark and dent the metal that you're working with. And we're going to try and fabricate and bend this into somewhat of a D shape. After I've turned this into a somewhat analogous D shape, I'll try and manipulate this so that both ends are touching flushly, if that's a word. You'll spring this back and forth, until finally the two edges just come together and you can barely see daylight through them. Okay. After we've bent this into a somewhat D shape, we have squared edges that are very closely touching. You can barely see daylight through it. We're going to solder this, hard solder it, using hard silver solder. So I'll just coat this entire piece with solder, with flux I should say. And you can barely see it, but I have one little piece of wire hard solder. And I'm going to place what's called the join, where the two pieces of metal will be coming together, right on top of that. You can barely see that, but I have a small piece of round wire solder underneath the join, and I'm going to heat that until we get flow temperature. And instead of trying to put all the heat at one spot, we will slowly try and bring the entire piece of silver up to approximate flow temperature for that solder. When that flux starts to turn white, I'm going to start putting a little bit more heat on the area to be joined. And we're getting close. There we go. It just dropped down. Once we've made the solder join, we'll go ahead and quench this in distilled water and then put it into a quench pot with pickling and let the pickle take all the flux off. What we'll end up with then is one of these that will be unpolished, but I'll show you how to do that in the next video. So it's really simple to try and make your own ring shanks. Just either go online and research, figure out exactly what thickness metal you have and what size you want so that you can cut it and file it to that size. Then using nylon jawed pliers, form it into somewhat of a D shape. Typically try to use hard solder. Be sure that it's fluxed. When you've made the join, go ahead and quench it in water and then pickle it for a few minutes. And let's see what we have here coming out of the quench pot. It's still got some pickle on it, so I'll neutralize that in distilled water. And from here we can go ahead and shape this into a round 7.5 size ring shank. Have a good one.